Hey there, BookTube, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since we've talked, and I have nothing to say about that other than, hey, how you doing? May was kind of a dud for me in terms of reading. I did some traveling, which is always a great thing. And what happens when I travel is I leave home with a bag of books that I intend to read because I'm always envisioning this downtime that I'm gonna fill with reading. And then it never happens because I have so much fun. I get so immersed in the things that I'm doing when I'm away that I just don't have time to read. So May, I went camping, and I went camping with the kids that I work with. And that involves a lot of planning, a lot of packing, a lot of taking care of other people's children, a lot of trying to recover when I return. So there wasn't much time to read on that trip. I also went out of state for a wedding. I went up to Connecticut. One of my friends got married, and she got married on a weekday. So I was there for the entire weekend, and I just didn't have time to read. I didn't want to read. I was just busy having fun. And on the reading front, in May, I finished one book, and I don't even have it anymore to show it to you. It was Amsterdam by McEwan. Amsterdam is a pretty short book, less than 200 pages, and it was about the story of Molly Lane's death. Molly Lane was kind of a bohemian, free-spirited woman. She had several boyfriends when she was younger, and she eventually married a stuffy old man. When she died, he had control of her legacy. But at her funeral, we meet all the other men that were part of her life, her former boyfriends, as well as other male friends. And so we get to meet Molly Lane through the perspective of all these other men. So it's a very patriarchal take on a free-spirited woman. But what makes this book so interesting is that it's not about man and woman. It's about relationships. It's an allegory for so much more. It covered topics like euthanasia in a very interesting way. But it also dealt with a lot of the power struggle and the desire to do good and be good, and the choices that we make as our perspective evolves on what it means to do the right thing, not just by ourselves, but by other people's standards. Very interesting read. I did a buddy read with K.A., who's a subscriber here on my channel. Hey, K. And that's it. That's the only book that I really finished in May proper. I read The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton, which was an 830 something page book. I reread this for the hashtag ManBooker50 challenge. More on that later. I also did a buddy read of this with Sarah, who's also a subscriber here on my channel. And I read most of it during May, but I didn't finish it until June 2nd. So I'm gonna count this as having read it in May because I had like the last 150 or so pages left to carry over into June. It takes place in New Zealand, follows a group of people around the gold rush period in the mid 1800s in New Zealand. But the lives and the relationships that are described in here are again symbolic of political and religious struggles. There are 12 main characters, as well as 7 other main characters, and a lot of characters that move in and out that feature in the narrative, and we meet them, get a little bit of their backstory, but they don't reappear. I read this last year, read it by myself, read it not as closely as I probably needed to, and so I didn't get everything that I needed to get out of it. This time I was intent on reading it a little bit more slowly. The thing that I liked most about the book was also the thing that I probably liked the least about the book, which is what makes it so complex. On the night when the book opens, January 27th, 1866, a man has died seemingly of natural causes. Another man has disappeared. And a prostitute who is related to both of these men in some way, even though we don't know yet how, she's overdosed on opium and has been found in the gutters and brought to jail on the charge of attempted suicide. All the other characters are gathered in this room to discuss their part in what has happened to these 3 people, as well as there are other characters who are just coming in, just landing on the shores of Hokitika and finding themselves immersed and embroiled in this mystery. What's frustrating about the book is that it's written kind of like a play where 2 of the characters talk at each point. One character talks to another, he reveals something, but he keeps something back. The other character reveals something, but then we realize that he's also keeping something back. And then they rotate, and you get to see their interaction with other people. And as they talk to different people, the stories change, and we get more and more of the mystery being revealed. And then we go back into the past, and then we flash forward, and frustrating, confusing, but also intensely rewarding when you're finished. Except I didn't like how it ended, but we'll get into that. I think I'm gonna do a full review of all of these books in another video, so we're not gonna talk too much more about this right here. Another book that I started to read in May and didn't finish was Vernon God Little by DBC Pierre. This was a Man Booker Prize winner in 2003, and the reason that this got a little difficult to read was it's following a school shooting in Texas. And if you live in the United States or follow United States history, you'll know that in May there was a school shooting in Texas very similar to what happened in this book, and so it didn't feel like the right time to read this book anymore. I started reading it, so I haven't finished yet, and I will get back to it and I'll tell you more about it as the time goes by. So that was another book that I started in May and didn't finish. I started The Life and Times of Michael K. by J.M. Coetzee, another Man Booker Prize winning book. I got to about 2/3 of the way in. I could tell you about the book, but I haven't finished it because I had to return it to the library. It was due and overdue the day before I was leaving for my trip, so I couldn't renew it and hold on to it. I had to put it back on reserve to get it back on Monday. So I'll finish it up and I'll tell you in my next wrap up what that book was about. I also started In a Free State by V.S. Naipaul and didn't finish because that book is a little difficult to read as well. It is interesting and intense, and it has a lot of nuances that you have to pay attention to while you're reading. The characters are not named, especially in the beginning. The characters are not named because they represent their countries. So again, with this book format, I'm gonna talk about that in an upcoming video. I have a lot of videos coming up, as you can tell. Most of the Booker books follow characters, but these characters represent something else. Usually they're an allegory for some social or political situation. And In a Free State is an allegory for political conflict, relationships between countries. And so in the book, most of the characters are not named. They're called by their demographic identity. So there's a tramp who's supposed to represent something. There's an Englishman, they're Arabic men, they're Greeks, and they're all meant to represent the interaction between these different countries. So a book like that is not something that you can just kind of gloss over and read really fast. You kind of want to understand the politics that the author is trying to discuss in giving you the story of these human characters. So that was my dud May Reads wrap up. This month I'm not going to do a book links video because there just aren't enough books to link. So we will return with book links at the end of June. Official end of the hashtag Man Booker 50 challenge was May 31st, but this is the 50th anniversary. So I'm going to be reading all the backlisted winners, as many of them as I can get my hands on, until I finish or until the short list is announced for the next year's winnings. So now that we're on the topic of the Man Booker best books, let's talk about the shade that is being cast on this book as we sip some tea. I don't know what that's about, but it's a meme, so I'm just gonna run with it. So 25 years ago, Salman Rushdie won the Best of the Booker award for his novel Midnight's Children, which everyone agreed was the best book that had ever won the Man Booker Prize 25 years ago. So why is it that 25 years later, when they gather to do a Best of the Booker over the 50 years, his book is not included, but they've gone back and taken other books that lost to this book and have put them on a short list of 5 top books of the 50 years. So now these judges are saying that In a Free State by V.S. Naipaul is better than Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children, even though this has already won over this 25 years ago. So I don't know what they're doing. It seems like they're casting a little bit of shade on Salman Rushdie, it seems like he's being intentionally dismissed because he's already won the 25th anniversary prize. I don't know. We'll hear more about that sometime. So right now there's a lot of Booker talk, and you know, I love the Booker Prize. It's one of my favorite book prizes. I think it is my favorite book prize. Even though I'm new to it, I'm calling it my favorite book prize because a lot of the books that have won or have been nominated for the prize are books that I have enjoyed. They have themes and writing styles that I really connect with. More on that later. So I'm sorry this video has been so short and so sparse. I do have some upcoming videos. I'm going to be going a little bit more in depth on the books that I've read recently and the books that I'll be reading pretty soon. I do have a lot of Booker books to talk about. I do want to make one big, maybe long video where I talk about all the Booker books. That's gonna happen sometime later in the year, but for now there are videos upcoming, new videos about things that I've been thinking about, just haven't had a chance to talk with you guys about. So if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell so you'll know when I make a new video, because I'm not on a regular schedule like a lot of full-time booktubers. So we'll talk in the comments. Hopefully, let me know what you've been reading. Give me some good bookish news, since it hasn't all been good news on this front. Maybe you just want to comment on my hair. Today the fro is out. So thanks for watching. We'll talk in the comments, and until next time, happy reading. Bye.